You're listening to episode 71 of the Comics Pals. We're a group of comic book journalists and friends who record a podcast together because we don't talk enough about comics in our daily lives.
What's up, Internet? You're tuned into the Comics Pals. I'm actually not here today.
Okay.
Actually, a pretty solid Pete impression, actually.
Yeah, it was good.
I was thinking there was going to be more to that. But that's Phil's way of saying that Pete is not here today. Pete is traveling the open road. Where he's going, no man knows. He's a man on a mission.
Does he even know? Because from what I understand, it's like white outside for you guys. Like completely and totally.
All right,
I haven't seen an ounce of snow. Or
Really?
anything. Yeah.
What? Dude, come by my neighborhood. There's just, there's a pile on my front lawn. It's crazy.
A pile of white.
A pile of white.
Are you enjoying that, Marco?
I am, a lot.
I did have more there, but it was good to be kind of mean-spirited. I didn't want to dunk on Pete too much, so...
That's what we do when people miss the show. Get with the program.
You just dunk on them.
Yeah, that's the gimmick, man. So Pete is missing the show, but if you're listening to this, you're obviously not. And we appreciate you for tuning in. If you want to connect with us, there are many, many ways for you to do that. You can reach out to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts,
Get it straight.
where we are a 5-star rated podcast. You can contribute to that by hitting us with a rating to help us out a lot. And we're also on SoundCloud and all other podcast hosting platforms. You can hit us up at the Comics Pals wherever your social media is sold. We'll talk to you, maybe. You can write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. You can hit us up with a buy or sell, a random question of the week, or your feelings on any topic we talk about on this or any other episode of the show. And last but certainly not least, you can hit us up on YouTube, where if you're watching this on YouTube, you can like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out a lot. We've got some exclusive content up on there, including our video that dropped like 2 weeks ago, our top 5 couples in comics. It's a lot of fun to put together. Hopefully you'll have fun watching it. If you haven't had the chance to check that out, go do so. Big week this week in comics, and there's a lot to talk about. But before we get to what's happening this week, we're going to dive into the mailbag, and we're going to talk about what was happening last week, because we got some comments on the stuff that we talked about.
All right, so this week we have a couple of letters from Harris. Let's do the first one first.
Good call, man.
No, let's do the second one first.
Second verse,
All right.
same as the first.
Marco called it. So here's Harris on episode 70. So dual numbering. Wow. Just wow. Makes me glad that I stick to mostly trades. I hear that, Harris. I feel you. So readers go from event fatigue to relaunch, retcon, reboot, mulligan fatigue. Wouldn't it be better to just make a limited series marketed as such to establish a new status quo for certain characters, then pick up with legacy numbers afterwards? Treating these new number 1/limited series as what happened between 2 legacy numbers, which caused them to change without sacrificing moving forward with the legacy? It's a big sentence, Harris.
Yeah.
Smaller words, buddy. I know it is a lot of questions, but this is just me trying to work. I know this is a lot of questions, but this is just me trying to work thing out loud.
What? Why are we pointing out our readers' typos every week?
Because this is Cale.
Because I messed it up, all right? The other idea is just to visit the whole multiverse thing like the DC.
He didn't say the DC.
No, that was my bad.
God, this is rough.
The other idea is just to visit the whole multiverse thing like DC. In this sense, to continue forth saying that Marvel Now, Legacy, and all the previous relaunches are essentially different universes running concurrently or group legacy. Marvel Now and Fresh Start as one book like DC did with the Earth 2 book.
Okay. Thank you for
That's
the
a lot,
comment.
Harris.
Yes, that is a lot. So There are several points in there. There's a lot to break down. First of all, Marvel Legacy and all the other relaunch / reboots or whatever you feel like calling them are not separate realities in the same way that DC's are. So pre-New 52 and post-New 52 are not the same like reality of DC. Whereas there's nothing really different about Marvel now and Marvel Legacy. It's the same characters doing the same things. Nothing's really changed for them. It's more of an initiative in real life to sell comics rather than anything that is reflected within the books themselves.
Superficial.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And as far as limited series, that's, fine, I guess. But it's hard to get everything into a limited series that they want when you're a writer or creator and you come up with an idea for a run. It doesn't necessarily make sense for a limited run, and the dual numbering thing is just what Marvel wants, and I would hate to see a creator have to come in on a book and be forced to come up with a limited series idea just because that's what editorial wants for across their entire line of books. That's a little weird.
Yeah, I think the limited series thing really works best, sort of as we've talked about with stuff like Iceman or America, as sort of a testing ground for ongoings.
Sure. All right, jump into the next one.
Can I read Boomer McGee?
All right. No, hang on. Harris has we have to get the first Harris one.
Okay.
Here is a question. With Time Warner considering to sell Warner Brothers and DC Comics, is there a possibility that Disney will go ahead and buy the properties? I'm curious to know how you guys will weigh the pros and cons if such a scenario actually happens, and how it would affect comic books in general.
That's something we were going to be talking about a little later, but we'll talk about it now for you, Harris.
We can give a teaser.
We might as well just do it now.
Just jump into it?
Yeah.
We kind of touched on this type of subject when the discussion of Disney purchasing 20th Century Fox entertainment branch came up. It's the same kind of problem. It's this Disney has this massive entertainment monopoly. It's really bad. You can listen to that episode pretty much at length where I basically express how terrible it is. Do I think it will happen? I don't think it will happen. I don't think they have any intention of doing so.
This would be like Google buying Apple. Like, that would be such a huge move that like there's no way that goes through.
Yeah.
Just to add just a little bit of context to what Harris is referring to, the Wrap reported about how the DC Extended Universe on film is focusing more on solo movies for the core Justice League team members, and putting all the movies that are not involving those characters on the back burner, like Batgirl, Nightwing. We've seen those movies get now put on hold. Apparently, this is something that they really want to do. But something else in the report is that the AT&T and Time Warner merger may not actually happen, and that if that doesn't happen, then the company could be sold off individually. Time Warner. That could leave DC Comics in limbo, and it's unclear who would actually pick them up. Now, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. I don't think there's any way Marvel does that. I don't think there's any way that Disney does that, because as much as we've talked about and in some senses lambasted Disney for overreaching, I don't think that they even want the kind of problems that would arise in this situation, and I don't know that they can afford it on their plate, especially when they're trying to merge with Fox right now.
For their own properties,
right? Yeah, exactly. And how do you guys think that would affect the comics industry, though, if it did happen?
I don't think it would be. I don't think it'd go very well. If I'm being quite honest, I think it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Phil. I think it would be again a Marvel machine kind of thing where it'll bleed into the comics the way that certain elements in business practices from the movie side to the comic side sort of bleed in. I think that it'll negatively affect it because again the focus will be on the properties and on the movies and not on the actual books and where these things are being sourced from and not from the creators. So I think that'll really impact I think it'll really impact the comics in a very negative way.
I don't think that this would work for the simple fact that it's too hard to manage. I don't even think it goes. I don't even think it's up. It's a question of whether Marvel would handle it properly. I think it's more just like, how do you deal with the fact that you're now adopting every single thing that DC has ever done?
Yeah,
and now you control it. You know, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It's massive.
And I don't think that the comics industry would adjust well to that. I don't want to see that at all. Just because, removing all the political elements and what would happen to people who work at DC and everything else, I just like the fact that there's separation.
Well, think about it. If you are the parent, if you're a parent company that owns like 2/3 of the comic industry, essentially, give or take, it's
bigger than that.
Sure, yeah, okay. And what do you do if you have these two publishing companies that basically do the same thing where, maybe like 30% of what they publish would be considered like dead weight to them in a profit margin sense? You would streamline a ton of it because you own so much of it.
That's a good point.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Harris, for the question. Keep writing in, man. We appreciate it, as always. We got one more.
Phil, you wanted this one?
I do. This is from Boomer McGee. I have a hard time.
Real handsome name.
I know.
On what episode?
Episode 70. This is what he sounds like. I have a hard time caring about this relaunch. Like Sean said, this is the third one since their big one. If you want to shuffle the chairs, just shuffle the chairs. I get that it's a publicity thing, but that's what's making it so ridiculous. I'm also pumped about Ed McGuinness on the art for Avengers, but, correct me if I'm wrong, his runs don't tend to last long, so I kind of feel like that's tempering my excitement. He's been announced on it for the hype.
Okay, thanks for that beautiful rendition of what Boomer McGee sounds like. Before we read this, can we expose who this is?
Who is it?
Well, Cale, why don't you answer Boomer McGee's email?
Listen, he's got some really good points.
You would say that.
Listen, for real talk. I don't remember hitting that 3 instead of the E in pumped.
Boomer McGee spelled the word pumped with a 3 instead of an E.
I read that I read that as you were reading, and I went, I didn't do that.
You sure did.
Oh well. But, yeah, so I just wanted to put my feelings out there for this week, for last week, I guess, since I was gone. I was not pumped about the announcement for Fresh Start or whatever they're calling it. I'm uninterested in the reboot itself, but I think, as we're going to talk about this week, there is some stuff that actually does sound really good.
Right. So
coming out of it,
that's a great way to kind of set the table for the conversation that we're going to have a little later on in the show. We're going to talk about the Fresh Start and a ton of announcements that Marvel did make, and whether or not those announcements provide the environment that's going to be conducive to new fans jumping on board and bringing lapsed fans back.
Holy shit, my reading of Boomer McGee, now that I realize it was Cale, dead on.
Okay. You
Come on.
knew what you were doing.
Yeah, that's awful. Sean, do you know about my Ed McGuinness point?
Oh, I think you're right.
Okay. Because like I thought that, and I went, it feels right, but it also I feel like I'll either be right or I'm gonna take a real hit. Like,
I don't feel like I've seen a lot of Ed McGuinness runs that have lasted super long. But he is one of those guys who tends to come on, at least from my recollection, at the start of something, and it kind of, it makes it exciting, and that's great. He has a lot of fans, and that's awesome, and I'll be there for it.
He's a bombastic artist.
Yeah.
Like, his stuff is tremendous. It really truly is. But he just, like, for whatever reason, I don't know, but like for whatever reason, he just doesn't stick around.
It's hard, especially in this era where books are shipping, like, in some instances 18 issues a year.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard for artists to really stick that out, especially if you have a very detailed style or a very big style. It's hard to do that 18 times in a year when most comic book artists, they're really cramming it in to get those 12 in a year. So
yeah, and he's about to tackle a team book too.
Yeah.
So man, hopefully they gave him scripts 2 years ago, because
all right. So thanks for writing in, you guys, not Boomer.
You're welcome. Oh.
If you want to write in, you can do so in all the aforementioned ways. These individuals chose YouTube, so you can do the same. We have our YouTube highlights that go up every week. Essentially, they're highlights from the episodes that we do, and they're broken up into pieces instead of the whole thing. So if you've only got 20 minutes and you just want to check out the main topic, you can always do that. And if you want to talk about a specific thing that happened in the episode and you want to do it on YouTube, you can always comment on one of the individual videos and we will read your comments on the air. So go ahead and do that if you like. Now, I've got a question for you guys.
Huh. I guess that means it's the random question of the week.
Okay.
Sounds right. Yeah, sounds right.
That's
accurate. Checks out.
Yep.
Oh, hang on. Let me check. It's about time.
Yeah. So, I've been thinking a lot about the argument that if you want to see representation in comics, you've got to create your own characters. And this is an argument that's happened a lot. So, my question to you guys is, who is your favorite comic book character that debuted after 2005?
Oh, Jesus. Fuck.
After 2005.
Jeez.
Jeez. I'm inclined to say Miles Morales.
Okay.
And I'm looking up my backup answer just in case. But yeah, I'm gonna say Miles Morales. Specifically because he seems like sort of the textbook case for that question, right? Like people want representation. Well, we gave it to you, and it, like, in theory, it worked.
Yeah, I would say in practice it worked.
So I'm looking at my bookshelf, and I think I'm gonna say Marco from Saga.
Yeah. Why? Because he has the same name?
I think that's exactly why.
No, I see a lot of similarities in his
Name.
well, more directly, the way I
The horns on Marco's head.
more directly the way that I perceive my own father, and like that's the emotional connection for me with that book. So I think like that's why he resonates with me, and that's why he's one of the stronger characters in all of comics for me personally. Just because I see a lot of like the caringness and a lot of the like support and just in general like that sort of connection. So that's why for me it's probably Marco.
So does your father have your same name? Is that what you're saying?
No, like he like personality wise, the way he approaches.
I was joking.
He's making jokes,
sorry.
my man.
Sorry.
No, that's actually really cool. So you identify with Marco because he reminds you of your dad.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah,
That's really interesting.
not necessarily identify with, but I there's an emotional resonance.
Right. Cool. Phil?
Oh boy, I'm like really struggling here.
Phil only reads 90s comics.
Yeah, I like characters that have names pulled out of a thesaurus. Fuck. I'm looking at a list, and the one that stood out was the Winter Soldier. That was that doesn't count because Bucky was made in the fucking 40s. God damn! Ah, fuck.
Minus 2 points.
Oh. Another one I thought of was Ulysses, who was in the second Jeff Johns Superman run as like an antagonist to the character, and that was like the best Superman villain I think they've introduced in a while. And then there's Van Didelix, who was from the Grant Morrison Action Comics run, who was also from the Fifth Dimension, like Mr. Mixel Spitlick. That was a really good character too. I don't know. That's tough. Point is, this industry is not the best at introducing new characters over the last 20 years.
That's, I would say, incorrect.
Yeah, I would say, especially in the big two, they're not great at letting them stick around.
Yeah, okay, sure.
But they'll create characters out of fucking nothing.
Gwenpool.
Yeah.
So for me, the answer is Kamala Khan.
Nice.
Yeah. Phil, did you answer?
After you gave your answer, I was like, all right, let's move on. Excellent. I'm off the hook.
No.
Fuck me. I don't fucking know.
I would also one answer I would also put forth is the Black Wally West.
Yeah.
It's a weird. The way that whole situation ended up is a really weird scenario. But it's very comic booky at the same time.
I like the character. Not too big of a fan of how that whole thing breaks down.
Yeah, the way it plays out, I'm not a fan of. But I do. Yeah, I agree. I like the character, and I like that he exists.
Yeah.
You know it might be? It might be Mr. Pig.
Mr. Pig. Yeah.
Or Professor Pig, rather.
Professor Pig, right.
Oh,
right.
Professor Pig.
That's a
okay.
character.
Okay.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he's good.
Was he that new?
He was made in like
yeah.
2007,
Oh, really?
probably.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Gmo.
Yeah, that was
Gmo came up with it.
That was good.
I chose this to highlight the fact that while Cale and Marco are right, and that the big two do create characters all the time, a lot of them don't stick for a variety of different reasons, and I think that that's not a great thing, because yeah, sure, any writer can come along and create a character, but are they going to be remembered in 20 years? Are they even going to be remembered in like 5 years? You know, a lot of times the answer is no. And you look at Marvel's whole initiative that they had, gosh, over 10 years ago, where it was, I can't even remember what it was called, but it was where they introduced the female Captain America, who was like his granddaughter or something like that, and all those different characters. I can't remember what that initiative was called.
Is she blonde?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I want to say her name was, man,
really
Star Spangled or something. Yeah, something.
Well, what really fucked me up was the year. You said 2005, and like that was such a cutoff point for a lot of like, because 2004 DC introduced like Jason Roosh and Ryan Choi and this character Bleach. Like they had like their own new character initiative, and I was like, well, I can't lean on any of these guys.
It's tough, man.
Yeah,
I guess Sean, when you had asked that, I sort of came, or like when Phil had made that comment and I had responded, I sort of approached it from like the world of like the image side and like the content creation on outside of the big two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's because nothing's happened in Swamp Thing in
75 years,
15 years.
That's not true. They introduced a new character within the book who's a police captain from.
Oh shit, Marco!
Whoa, cop.
She's a police captain that came into Huma from Gotham.
Interrupting Marco. You know what character was introduced post 2005 that is very near and dear to all of our hearts? True Canuck Wolverine, eh? Let's all share a Molson and celebrate the creation of the greatest character.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, we're going to move on from that. And we're going to do our pals polls for the week. So we're going to start off with Cale, who chose Lobster Johnson, Volume 6, Chain Forged in Life.
Whoa, they're on 6 already?
Volume 6.
Nice.
Longtime listeners will know that I'm a huge fan of Lobster Johnson. He's sort of Mike Mignola's noir. Yeah, noir. Sort of Mike Mignola's noir superhero. I just think the action there's dynamite. The writing is incredible. The art, it's all spot on, and it's everything I want in a superhero book. A slightly dark and gritty edge, but also fun.
Awesome. You also chose Justice League of America Volume 3, Panic Microverse.
So it's actually kind of funny that Phil mentioned Ryan Choi because he's the second Adam, sort of the legacy Adam.
Third Adam.
In this, is he the third?
Third Adam, my dude.
You just gonna leave that hanging there? Who's the second?
Well, the second one is Ray Palmer. And the first Adam, you're making me look this up because he's from the Golden Age. He was on the fucking
Al Pratt.
Al Pratt.
Yep. Good call. Way to watch him. So this book is all about Ryan Choi taking the Justice League of America, which isn't the Justice League, into the Microverse, I guess, to find Ray Palmer, who disappeared in Rebirth.
Yeah.
That's the second time that's happened.
Yeah, it is. It's also funny because this week I will be on the long box short box talking about Identity Crisis.
Ooh.
That's a book that's very near and dear to your heart, I know.
Yeah, it is. And I'm excited to see if it holds up.
Cale, I'd like to respectfully ask to not bring up that name on the show, please.
Ryan Choi?
Which one?
The
Ray Palmer?
No.
Short
Identity Crisis.
Identity Crisis.
the The long box. They don't deserve our attention.
Hey, Marco. Hey, listen. I'd appreciate if you didn't bring up that name.
What, Marco?
Oh.
And then you also chose Green Hornet #1.
So I included this specifically because this Marco, Pete, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. This is let me see if I can get it right. It's the daughter of Kato, who's now taking over the mantle of the Green Hornet. So it's an Asian female lead, written by a female Asian woman who has a long history
You saw that too, right?
She has a long history, I guess, of being a fan of the Green Hornet. So the stars are aligned for this book.
Who was it again?
I believe her name's Amy Chu.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Awesome.
She's good.
Yeah.
Did Bruce Lee actually have a daughter?
Just the son?
I don't know.
All right.
What?
Because Bruce Lee was the original Green Hornet. Green Hornet sidekick.
Kato.
Yeah, he was the original Kato. That's why I asked.
I don't know, man.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a Bruce Lee expert.
All right.
Okay, moving right along.
Yes, sir.
Marco chose Star Wars 44.
So I chose this because, Sean, I don't know how you've been. I don't know if you caught up at all.
I'm not.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about Gillen's writing. I know it's like in a transition period still. So I think after this issue, I might call it as to whether or not I'm going to drop it.
Marco's putting them on notice.
The main Star Wars title has gone from Jason Aaron to Kieran Gillen, right?
Yeah. And LaRocca's still on art, and it's still bomb. It's fire. It's great. I just don't. I don't know. It was such a shift in style and the sort of direction or the way that Aaron left the book off, and I feel like Gillen's been kind of scrambling to pick up the pieces of where everything is and try to forge his own direction in that. So like this arc is almost done, and so I'm gonna stick through that. But I don't know if it doesn't resolve clean. I think I'm gonna drop it. It's been, I think, the longest book that and Saga right now that's ongoing for me.
Wow. 44 issues is the longest ongoing you've ever read?
Not that I've ever read, but it's the my current one at least.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Because I don't read
Swamp Thing
superhero stuff or.
Gosh, when I hear that, it's just crazy because like I've been buying Captain America for 10 years straight.
Whoa, cool!
I just never stopped. I don't know.
I wish that in the past 10 years, I knew that I could come up. Like I knew for certain that I could come up with $5 for Captain America for 10 years straight.
I wish I knew that too. Shit, I don't know.
I have a tendency to follow an author, and if an author leaves a book, I stop reading it. Which is a bad tendency. I should give the next one a chance, right? But I'm like, all right, well, he left, so I'm good.
Well, the thing with that was like Kieran, I was totally up to give him a chance because he came out of Darth Vader. He's been in the Star Wars universe in general, and like all that stuff's been great. So I was excited for this transition, but now it's sort of just left me. I just want to like feel burnt and then like drop it. So I don't know. I'll see how it nets out.
All right. Phil chose Daredevil by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, the Omnibus. This is the second volume of the Omnibus, right?
That's correct, sir. I have the first one sitting on my shelf as we speak. Daredevil is a fortunate character in that just about almost for the duration of the character's entire existence, he has had a good creative team on. Not so much really when Frank Miller took over. Like since Frank Miller, it was like a home run after home run, and Mark Waid's run is right up there with like Brubaker and Bendis' run, which is funny because I think it's like the only thing Bendis ever wrote well. And this is the second volume of the Omnibus collection. This is where it starts to dip a little bit. because his run kind of tapered out a little bit toward the end. But it's an omnibus. I like the collected edition of things. It's $100 now, but you can probably find it marked down to $50 pretty quickly afterwards. So I'm picking this shit up. You should too.
Cool. And then for me, I chose Oblivion song number 1. This is a big deal because it's a new Robert Kirkman book. We've talked about it on the show quite a bit at various points. I'm looking forward to it. I don't follow anything that Robert Kirkman writes. I tried with The Walking Dead, but I was collecting it, and there are just too many issues to catch up, so I just stopped trying. But this is a fresh start, and the art looks really tight. Lorenzo De Felici and Annalisa Leone. So I'm not familiar with those artists, but I've seen what the book looks like, and it looks great. And Robert Kirkman is definitely talented, so I'm going to be picking this up, and I'm sure if Pete were here, this would be his Pal's Pull for the week as well. So,
although everything Pete likes is bad.
Oof, that's not correct. So, before we officially jump into all the news, I do want to wish Stan Lee well. He is battling pneumonia at 95 years old, which is not good. It's not good to have pneumonia at any age, let alone 95. But he's alive and kicking, and he actually released a video of himself to TMZ where he's just kind of letting us know that he's A-okay. And I'll read a quote from the video. "I want you all to know I'm thinking of you. Of course, I always think of the fans, and I hope you're all doing well, and I miss you all. I miss your enthusiasm. I miss all your notes, all your photos, and emails. I want you to know that I still love you all. Maybe I'll have some of this pneumonia knocked down, and we can have some real fun over the internet. Till then, Excelsior."
Thanks, Funky Flash Man.
So, and while we're at it, while we're in the business of wishing well, we should also wish Kevin Smith well, who nearly died from a heart attack recently. So, we almost lost 2 major creators in the same week, which would have been a huge blow. This would be a totally different show if that were the case. But
and it comes in threes.
Who's next?
Let's not speculate.
Hopefully Scott Lobdell.
Oh my god!
I mean, I was gonna say Pete. I wasn't gonna say any famous person or anything.
And that was the random question of the week. Oh wait, am I too late?
I didn't say a famous person either.
Oh, let's not be mean-spirited. All right, so now we'll jump into the news proper with a pretty big piece of news, although something I guess we did know was coming. A major change in the way that Diamond is handling comic books, because they've now announced the pull box, which is a digital pull list that comic book buyers can keep through Diamond that will allow them to connect with their local comic book shop and keep a standing order with them through the website. On the retailer end, Pullbox will offer a number of features, including back-end approval of new Pullbox customers, alerts to new orders, set ordering dates, and the ability to sync customers' pre-orders with the rest of Diamond's retailer ordering systems. So you'll be able to, use the website to keep your pull list and manage it in any way you want, and also create what they refer to as quote-unquote special orders and a wish list. So that's actually really, really interesting, and we talked about it. We talked about the need for something like this a few episodes back, so it's awesome that they've announced this. We don't know a ton of details outside of what I just said, but this is something that the industry sorely needs. There will be demos available at the Diamond Retailer Summit in April, so I'm sure we'll hear more coming out of that. But in their announcement, Diamond had this to say. The new cloud-based software is part of a broader strategy by Diamond to create an easy way to funnel orders to local comic book shops and make the pre-order process a much more viable and vital process for the entire comics industry. So what are you guys thinking about that?
We talked about it largely in the other episode, but like this is definitely something. At least for me, I don't. My pull list is managed directly through my local comic shop, and it's been hard with Comixology going away because they had a direct integration with that, and then they had that with their sales, so it was really easy for them. But now we're back to like emails. It's like, I need this on hold, and it sucks, and it's really slow. Books are getting missed. Like it's just been unfortunate for the retailer side. So more so for me, I hope this helps them, because again, comic shops are struggling, and the process of getting a book is so difficult and so tedious. I really just hope it streamlines the process and makes it and I hope it's a better version of Comixology, because for all intents and purposes, like, Comixology wasn't bad. It definitely needed upgrades and improvements and stuff, but it was still a service that we could use.
Yeah, something.
It was something, yeah. It was literally anything.
Sure.
Yeah, anything to streamline or expedite the process to help readers be able to access books in general. There seems like there's such a large gate to like cross just to like for non weekly readers to try to access these books, and if this is a process to help streamline it, like Marco said, then yeah, all the power to Diamond.
I'm skeptical. I think this is a really good move. I think it's a move that's needed and has been needed for a long time. I think Phil's exactly right. Like, the process is tedious and frankly, like it would put me off were I a new reader. But even with physical copies of books, like Diamond being the only major distributor, like, they're fine. Most of the time stores get their books, and they're not without problems, but often their problems are pretty bad. If your one job is shipping out books, the fact that you're missing, that you can miss a store's almost full order is just like, that's terrible. So I have been longing for another distributor to take in the reins. But if they can do it and they do it well, I hope it works.
I'm with you, man. I don't really believe in Diamond, honestly.
Yeah.
It comes down to that for me.
Totally.
They have had the reins on the way that comics are distributed for a really long time. The fact that they're only now doing
99.
this, yeah, or 97. Was it 99 or 97?
I remember the article saying 99. It could be 97, but it's around there. Late 90s.
Either way, yeah, 2 years apart at any rate. They are slow, man, and they have not done the industry any favors. And like you said, we've talked about this already, so I won't belabor it, but I hope that this works. I really, really do, because I think that we need to develop a better way for people to get their books. And I wish that all comic book stores had the capacity to deliver books to you. That's something that Midtown Comics does, and I don't use it, but I know that that's a thing, and it's super cool that they do it. And you can pre-order your books through their website and get them delivered to you. You never have to go to the store if you don't want to, and it's the same process. And it's streamlined, and it's beautiful. And if we could just have that across the entire country for comics, it'd be great. Why is it that there's a comic book store that has figured out how to do that before Diamond? That's ridiculous. But we'll see how this plays out.
Obviously, a big problem with that is a lot of the Midwestern and Southern states they're a lot more spread out, and it'd be more difficult for LCSs to deliver books. But and major cities, absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point, and I think it could be as simple as, hey, if you live X amount far enough away, we can't deliver to you.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. No, that's a good point.
But we'll see how this plays out. We'll probably hear more in April, so stay tuned for that. Now, Mark Millar is making headlines again because he's always saying something kind of controversial, always saying or doing something controversial. And this time, he is explaining why Marvel's movies are better than DC's.
Whoa, what? What a hot take.
Revelation.
Strongly disagree.
So, he essentially says that DC films do not develop the human character. They simply focus on the superhero. So this is the quote. And I say that as a massive DC fan who much prefers their characters to Marvel's. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are some of my favorites, but I think these characters, with the exception of Batman, they aren't based around their secret identity. They are based around their superpower. Whereas the Marvel characters tend to be based around the personality of Matt Murdock or Peter Parker or the individual X-Men, it's all about the character. People will slam me for this, but I think the evidence is there. We've seen great directors, great writers, and great actors, tons of money thrown at them, but these films aren't working. I think they are all too far away from when they were created. Something feels a little old about them. Kids look at these characters and they don't feel that cool. Even Superman. I love Superman, but he belongs to an America that doesn't exist anymore. He represents 20th century America, and I think he peaked then. What do we think about that?
Guys, I'm going to go on a lark here. Controversial opinion, but I think sex is better than handjobs. Whoa, don't crucify me for that one.
I mean, not everybody feels that way, but all right.
Yeah, just it's the same percentage of people who think that the DC cinematic films are better than Marvel films.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Mark Millar.
Yeah, this one's tough because, like, his initial statement, it makes a lot of sense, and I think he's right. They're focusing on the icon as opposed to what makes the icon.
Then the second half, oh boy, off the rails.
Yeah. The second half kind of goes in a Mark Millar kind of, hyperbole.
It's crazy that Superman peaked when he last wrote the character.
It's interesting, right? Because fundamentally, I don't agree with his point, right? Like, what I've never read anything or seen anything that focused more on Wonder Woman's powers than who she was. I don't think that's true. And Wonder Woman. Go ahead.
I don't think Wonder Woman's a good example, though.
Yeah, it's the only good movie they did.
Yeah, that too, right? but this is what he chose to say. So I don't know why he would even say that, because that's not true.
Because his brain is mush, my good dude.
And then when it comes to Superman, I also disagree. You look at Superman Returns, that movie was bad because it was trying to ape something that was great 20, 30 years prior, and it didn't even have Superman throwing a punch. It like deliberately did not focus on Superman's powers. And that was part of the reason why it sucked, because it wasn't interesting. It tried to do exactly what he's saying, and it didn't. It failed.
But Superman Returns wasn't part of the DCEU.
I know, but he's using it as a focal point to extrapolate the opposite end of the extreme.
Right. So, okay, if you want to talk about, like, Man of Steel, for example, Man of Steel focuses as much on who Superman is in that world as it does what he can do. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the movie focusing on what the character can do. You look at Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man movie, for example. That movie is very much about setting the table for Spider-Man and his powers. The second one takes those powers away. You know, we always play with those things. If you don't like Man of Steel, that's fine. But to say that it's because it focused on his powers, that's ridiculous. That's not true.
But what I'm reading is that it focuses on the powers as opposed to the character.
But where is that evident?
But
there's Go ahead, Marco.
I'm sorry, but to Sean's point, like, Man of Steel focused largely on Clark and on Superman. I think more so it's in
Man of Steel did not
wholly disagree.
Man of Steel did not do a good job of focusing on Clark. Clark was definitely a secondary vessel of that film. Like, does Clark Kent exist in that? Yeah, but he's a passenger. And in that third, the movie's more about Kal-El, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but don't get caught in the weeds, though. He said powers.
I understand, but the third act of that film is basically a power fest. It's a slog fest of mass destruction. So in that regard, there's a nugget of truth to it, because the entire third act of the movie it's nothing but like powers, messy powers, which probably sounds like his bedroom life.
Okay,
nice try. So. I don't know, guys. I really don't agree. I mean, you look at like any superhero film, majority of them end the same way, and there's not a ton that's different between the way that Man of Steel ends in terms of it being a superhero fight fest than the way Civil War ends, or the way this movie ends, or that movie ends. And you can say like you didn't like the emotional stakes at play, but they're there. They're definitely present for Superman, for Kal-El. I agree with you, Phil, that Clark is not really a present character in that movie, but that's because that movie wasn't made to explore Clark. And maybe you're right. Maybe that is to Mark Millar's point. His point, he does say that they don't care about the secret identity as much. So maybe that's the key. I don't know. But if you're talking about powers specifically, I don't think that if you look at the DC film slate, that what they have done is bad because they focus on the powers. I think it's bad because the meal's bad, you know?
Yeah, and instead of focusing on Harley Quinn, the character, they focus on Harley Quinn, the daddy's little monster. And frankly, that's a really good point, Mark Millar, because we all want to see the person behind daddy's little monster. So, hat off to you.
Don't take like a noble pose, you son of a bitch.
Cale, let me ask you this question.
All right.
So you're obviously a fan of the Marvel films. Do you think that the reason why those films are successful on a fundamental level is because they focus more on the secret identity of the character as opposed to their persona when they have on their costume?
I think they're more successful because they focus on yes. I think that they are successful because they focus on the person and who that person is when they get the power. Like, yes, the power is dope, and yes, the power aids the film and makes the film and the story good, but it's the person that you're there to relate to.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, so what Iron Man goes through in Iron Man, you know, what Tony Stark goes through in Iron Man, even though he's kind of a piece of shit, you feel for him, you get it, you're there, you're going through what he's going through. And the cool rocket boots and the blaster gloves are just a hip part of it, you know?
People like Iron Man has a cool suit with cool powers, but people like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. That's what they come back for. He is the face of the MCU. Captain America is not too dissimilar from Wonder Woman or Superman in their iconography, but at the end of the day, it comes back to Steve Rogers and that character, which I don't think you really get with the Zack Snyder films too much.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Like the Henry Cavill portrayal of Superman doesn't really touch on Clark Kent, which is like the foundation of Superman.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if you take his origin, shooting from the rocket of Krypton, that's the only Superman part of his origin, really. Like he was raised on a farm in Kansas, and he moved to the big city and operates in these sort of small town ideologies, and I think Man of Steel misses that.
All right, I can concede that. Yeah, I guess for me it's like, I like Man of Steel, right? But let's say divorce that, forget that I like it.
No problem.
I definitely understand saying Zack Snyder's vision wasn't for me or whatever. That's fine. I don't think that there's a fundamental problem with these characters. That because he says Superman peaked in the 20th century.
Right. No. And I think
we're all in agreement there.
Maybe I think maybe that's where you're sort of disagreeing with us, but we're also sort of agreeing with you. We agree with the first half of what Mark Millar said. The Marvel movies focus on the people as opposed to the powers. The second half of the Superman garbage that he said, I'm not even touching that. That's a wholly stupid.
Yeah. The first half is. Yeah, it's an opinion, but there's enough to it that you could be like, I can at least see where he's coming from. The second half is like walking past someone else's dog poop on the sidewalk. You're not going to touch that.
All right, fair enough. Like you said, we won't touch it and we'll move right along. So, Brian Michael Bendis,
my favorite,
has made some announcements about what we can expect from the new Jinxworld titles that will be released under his exclusive agreement with DC Comics. So Emerald City Comic Con is ongoing right now as we speak. But yesterday, that being Friday for us, he did come out and he did announce 2 new titles. So he's going to reteam with David Mack, who he worked on Kabuki with, for a book called Cover. Inspired by a true story in which a comics creator is recruited by an intelligence agency to live a double life as a spy. That's pretty interesting. It's going to be coming out this fall, and again, if you like the combo of Bendis and David Mack, this is right up your alley. So that's one, and then he's reuniting with Michael Gaidos, who he created Alias with, for Pearl, described as an epic romance set among warring Yakuza factions in present-day San Francisco. Debuting in August, the series centers on Pearl, a tattoo artist and accidental assassin who becomes entangled with her counterpart from another faction.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm interested in Pearl.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
Yeah, the other one
the other one sounds just like Castle, the TV show with Nathan Fillion.
I'm not familiar.
I mean, the premise is a writer gets taken in by cops to help solve crimes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So he's just a writer. He has no skills at all. No.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
He's a crime writer.
All right. So
like a comic book writer would have all of these skills for a spy organization.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
if anything, I mean, we have negative skills, right? Because we sit around and write all day, so we're out of shape.
That's right.
We don't talk to people, so we have no social abilities. Like, this is this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's right. Just like Castle.
But that's not the only big news coming from the Jinxworld DC collaboration, because for the time being, in fact, from now until the 7th of March, you can get 5 number ones free from readdc.com. Brilliant number 1 is free. Powers number 1 is free. Scarlet number 1 is free. The United States of Murder Incorporated is free, number 1. And Takio number 1 is free. So if you want to get a feel for what Bendis' creator-owned work is like, and you've not read it before, or you want to sample one of his books that you haven't had a chance to pick up, they're all there for free. And then if you want to, you can also pick up the collected editions of each of these series through readdc.com as well. So they're all there.
Cool. What were the last two?
Takio and the United States of Murder Incorporated.
I feel like we've talked about the Murder Incorporated.
I brought it up in the past, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it good? I'm interested.
I liked it. All
right, cool. I picked that up.
Yeah, listeners,
Or
give
go
it a
read
shot. He's one of the most important writers of our industry, so give it a shot.
Definitely give Powers a shot. I will stand by that.
Scarlet. I love that book.
Scarlet's good.
Yeah. Yep. Phil, I see your face. I know you're trying to get a reaction. The fact that you would facetiously say that he's one of the most important writers in our industry is crazy. Like, of course he is.
Yes. So give it a read, listeners.
Why don't you give it a read? Have you read any of these?
Huh?
Exactly. Exactly. Say no more.
Please.
So, while we're on the subject of new imprints at DC, Neil Gaiman has announced the new Sandman universe imprint that's going to be coming out of DC. This is the 30-year anniversary of the Sandman when that first dropped, and now we're going to be getting more Sandman. In 2013, we got Sandman Overture. So we've had a little bit of stuff come out over the years, and then Sandman is in Metal too, right?
That's right.
So
is he really?
Our dream is there's Sandman affiliated stuff in Metal.
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yes, sir.
Whoa, that's really cool.
Where have you been? We've talked about this
I don't read
on
it.
the show.
No, but not the magic.
Yeah, we left that part out probably.
No, we talked about it. I brought it up.
Yeah,
okay.
I knew that much. Yeah,
Really?
you've talked about
okay.
it before. Sean, is the new Sandman stuff, is that coming out of DC or Vertigo?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I think it's DC.
Because I feel like it was Vertigo.
I could be wrong. No, yeah, DC is launching a Sandman Universe line of 4 new comic series.
Huh. Okay.
And this is coming out of Entertainment Weekly.
Are they-
and that's what I'm reading from. So if they're wrong,
Yeah.
take
sure.
it up with them.
Are they all written by Neil Gaiman, or are they like presented by Neil Gaiman?
So there's actually an entire host of creators that he's put together for this project.
Nice.
Nalo Hopkinson, Kat Howard, Cy Spurrier, and Dan Waters, with art by Bilquis Everly and a cover by Jia Lee. That's the crew for the Sandman Universe #1 issue.
Whoa.
It's a big crew.
Yeah. And then out of that, they're each going to have, their own book or something like that. Like there's going to be Books of Magic, House of Whisper. So there's several titles that are coming out in this universe, and they're each going to be taken care of by a different creator. So I think this is really cool.
And in the immortal words of our very show, it could be good.
Neil Gaiman produces really good stuff, so I'm pretty sure it'll be good.
Could be good, Marco.
No, pretty sure it'll be good.
Okay, stop that.
All right.
That's crazy. Is anyone like into this?
Yeah, Marco obviously
Hello.
super is. Sandman isn't a superhero book, so it totally makes sense that Marco would be. And this is the Sandman series is one of DC's like DC Vertigo's like big like flagship books. It's the thing that put them on the map.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel I personally am a little skeptical about it.
Really?
But I haven't been that big a fan of it. So I like it, but I'm not crazy about it.
I don't know. For me, Neil Gaiman heading this up and like handpicking the talent and the talent that was announced, like those are all crazy great creators. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see this universe come back, or to see it in a new light, and to have its own sort of universe in and of itself. That's really cool, because that's something they had tried to do years back, with a bunch of crossovers, with the Book of Magic, Constantine, Sandman, Swamp Thing, like all when the big Vertigo titles were around. I'm really pumped for this.
You know what, man? I gotta be honest. I want to be, but I don't know that I am.
Boo.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that Neil Gaiman is in charge and got to pick his team and worked really closely with editorial to make this happen. For me, like it's sort of on the same level as Young Animal, though. Like, sweet, dope. This makes room for more creators on more books, and that can only be a good thing. Just the Sandman stuff and the Neil Gaiman comic stuff, it's not my bag.
I do want to point out that some of these names are not names that I'm familiar with. So it's really cool, at the very least, that as someone who's been in the industry, like reading comics for well over a decade at this point, that he's introducing me to new names, new creators who I've not read, who now have a chance to write for one of the most celebrated characters, one of the most celebrated lines of all time, and maybe this opens big doors for them. So I think that if for no other reason, I'm excited for that. I think that's great.
Yeah, like Simon Spurrier was nominated for an Eisner back in 2015, I want to say 2014, for a Boom title. I'm blanking on the name, but it's really well done. His art is crazy.
Cy Spurrier,
sorry.
His name actually is Simon.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
He just goes by
He shortens
Simon,
it. Yeah, he shortens it.
Okay.
But yeah, so hopefully this works out. I'm sure it's going to be good. The names that I know of that are attached, come on. So if you're into Sandman, you got something good to look forward to.
Maybe.
For the rest of us who are looking forward to Avengers Infinity War, which is the next major movie on the docket, we have one less week to prepare because Marvel moved up the release date in a move that is unprecedented. Avengers Infinity War moved from May 4th to April 27th, a whole week earlier.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. asked him to.
So, as to what Cale's referring to, this all sort of broke down over a tweet exchange. Marvel put out a tweet saying something along the lines of, get ready for Infinity War May 4th. And then Robert Downey Jr. said on Twitter, any chance I could see it earlier? And they replied, sure. How does April 27th sound? And then Robert said, great, with friends? And they said, yeah. And then they tagged in all the major actors from the cinematic universe. And Robert
cool.
Downey Jr. said, the entire world. And they said, yeah. And he said, that's a fantastic idea. Done. And then Marvel Studios tweeted out, Avengers Infinity War releases in theaters everywhere April 27th. So there was some confusion about whether or not that meant the U.S. included, because we never get these things alongside everyone else. But this is real. It's really happening. So there's actually a lot more under the surface.
Yeah, that's what I did want
to dive into. Now, obviously, there is no way that they made this decision via Twitter exchange between Tony Stark and the manager of the Twitter for,
No, of course. It was clearly just publicity.
Exactly. So, there are several reasons why this may be the case, why this may have happened. Number one is that Deadpool 2 switched release dates from June to May. And if Infinity War had kept its May 4th release date, they would have only had 2 weeks, I believe, between Deadpool 2 and Infinity War. That's not a ton of time. Deadpool 2 is going to do big numbers. Everyone's excited for that. And obviously, Infinity War is 2, but they would love to reap the benefits for 3 weeks if they can. 4 weeks is even better, right? So that's one piece of the puzzle. In addition, when you think about it, they're making money off of Deadpool as well. So why would Marvel want to cannibalize their own profits by putting these movies up against each other? Doesn't make any sense.
I don't think Disney sees it that way.
Okay, fair enough. And then on top of that, Solo, a Star Wars story, is coming out right after Deadpool. So they wouldn't have necessarily gotten the full amount of cash from Avengers 3 had they released on that week, because it's going to be followed so quickly by 2 other movies that are coming out that are going to be incredibly successful by all accounts. So this 3-week window helps them out with that. The other element, though, is that this could actually be a move for Disney to simply flex their muscle. Because now we're looking at a scenario where Disney basically runs the roost. All 3 movies that I mentioned, in some way or another, Marvel's making money off those movies. Disney, I should say, is making money off those movies. They can move a release date for a film weeks before its release, and no one can challenge them. And what are you supposed to do if that happens to you? In fact, there's a couple of movies. There's a couple of movies that are coming out right alongside the release of Avengers that originally were going to have like a couple of weeks to themselves, and now are bumping up right against that release date. So there's one, I believe it's an Amy Schumer movie that's coming out now on this. I mean, I'm not personally, worried about the Amy Schumer film, but that's the point, right? They put that movie there hoping it would do modest numbers and get something going before Infinity War comes and sweeps everything up. Now that's not going to happen, because I shouldn't say no one. Most people are not going to go to the movies.
I mean, nobody was going to go see that Amy Schumer movie anyway. Let's get real.
All right. Fair enough.
Sean bags off that one. All right.
What am I going to say?
Yeah, right.
But what do you guys think about this?
My major takeaway from this is that I think Solo is not going to do very well, because it's bam, bam, bam. First you have the Avengers in late April. Following that is going to be Deadpool 2. Both of those movies are going to do gangbusters. The first Deadpool was a massive success. Obviously, Avengers is like a major cinematic experience that, for all intents and purposes, should be the largest movie of the year, though obviously Black Panther did really, really well as well. And following those 2 movies is going to be Solo. And obviously Star Wars hype is, it's not something to be trifled with. But to have 3 major blockbuster films in the course of about a month is going to lead to serious audience fatigue. Usually, historically and traditionally speaking, this is usually spread out between late April through late July. And usually late July is kind of like the weeds of blockbuster films. But when you have those types of films so close together, there was a study I read a few years ago about how audiences only allocate so much money to seeing movies, and usually one is to like a Pixar film, and then like 3 or 4 toward a major blockbuster film, like whether it's a horror film or superhero oriented, or what have you. Basically, it was a critique on Universal's attempt to try to start a monster cinematic universe with their monster IPs, and basically how there's no room for this. And it's a commentary on how the major film studios like Fox and Sony and Disney are spending more and more money trying to focus on just 1 or 2 major films. And we're seeing it right now because every year when the other studios try to compete, they get stomped out because audiences just don't have the money or time or interest in seeing these other films. Obviously, Star Wars is super popular, but coming out off the wave of these 2 juggernauts, I don't know how it's gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at the quality of the trailer, like Solo looks like a really weak film.
Yeah,
like I think it's probably the first Star Wars movie, period, that's come out that I am probably gonna actively avoid.
And I don't think you're unique. I don't think you're unique in that feeling. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. Uniquely, because obviously 10 years ago was a different landscape. Even though people had reservations about the prequel trilogy as each one came out, people like myself were stupid and kept going anyway because they were like, well, this is probably going to be better than the last one.
Yeah.
People aren't like that anymore because of how the landscape of cinematic films have changed. If something's bad, people just don't see it.
There was also less competition.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
There wasn't a reason. Or there wasn't, you might have only had the one movie to go see every year, or every summer, I should say. Now you got a ton. The other movie that is going to be crushed by this is Rampage, The Rock's new movie. It's only going to have a week of freedom before Avengers comes out. There is one more. Yeah,
you're probably right.
One. Yeah, that movie's done for. There's one more movie though, or rather, one more reason why Marvel may have made this choice, and it's because of spoilers. So there's a big problem that occurs when these movies come out weeks ahead in some places than others. U.S., we always get it really late in comparison to Europe. So now everyone gets it at the same time. You don't have to dodge spoilers for this movie, and I guarantee that dodging spoilers would have required you to not get on the internet.
Yo, speaking of that very subject, I saw a thread the other day that was like list of spoilers, list of confirmed characters who die in Infinity War, and it had a picture of a character who I don't want to say, and like my first instinct was, you son of a bitch, that picture is a spoiler. I mean, this could be all bullshit just to like fuck with fans, but I got hook, line, and sinker there. So when we get closer and closer to the actual release date of this film, this shit's going to get even more rampant.
Yeah.
One definite good thing about this is that I'm not going to get to see it, a week earlier and like have to remember everything by the time we get around to podcasting about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real pumped about that.
A lot of people are like, at my day job, everyone's like, "Oh, you hear Avengers is being pushed up?" And I just feels like it's just a week, whatever. I don't care. But people are hyped. Like, this is a good publicity stunt. It's getting people actually like. It's one less week to wait, and to a lot of people, that is a difference maker.
Sure, and again, it builds anticipation. Who was talking about Infinity War specifically prior to this week? Now everybody's talking about it again.
Exactly.
And now the machine builds, because now we know you've got just, under 2 months to get ready for this movie. And, this is a huge moment. So I'm excited.
So figure out what you're going to wear.
Yeah.
Because you got 2 months to get ready.
That's right.
I'm going to wear sports jerseys like I do for every cinematic release of a Marvel movie.
scrub. So, the Hollywood Reporter has put out a report,
as they're wont to do,
suggesting that 20th Century Fox is ready to produce more X-Men films than ever before.
They sure are.
In light of the fact that there's this looming Disney-Fox merger, they haven't slowed down. If anything, they've ramped up production. And this article goes into detail about the fact that they're producing a Silver Surfer movie.
Whoa.
Being written by Brian K. Vaughan.
Whoa.
There it is.
Okay.
I was going to say, oh, hold on, Marvel. Marco, wait for it. Wait for it.
I fucks with it.
So when you said that, I'm sorry, Sean, did you finish?
I just wanted to add.
Yeah, go for it. Go ahead.
This is coming from a Fox insider. We actually have way more in development and production in Marvel IP than at any point in the history of the studio. There has been zero slowdown on that front, given Disney. So this is amazing that they're working on that, and then there are several other movies that they're working on that we haven't even gotten to. Marco, what's your take so far?
So I think they're trying to use the last, like, as this merger is happening, I feel like they're trying to use the last bits of the properties that they have to send out these movies and accelerate them before the actual merger, before Fox can no longer make the money off of that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, do you think they're just going to shit out X-Men movies until the deal is done?
Well, they're making 3 X-Men movies in 2019 and then another 3 in 2020. So that's up from the 2 that we had typically been getting in years prior. So to answer your question, yeah.
I think a lot of them aren't going to be made. Like the Silver Surfer thing, I don't think that gets made.
I think you're right. I think that the ones that they want, the ones that are imminent, so the ones obviously this year, and then I would say the ones next year, probably safe. Because we haven't really heard where the Disney-Fox deal's going. This kind of thing can take a long time. I could see it taking until 2020 to really be done.
Sure.
If it's going to happen. If it's really going to go through.
Might get blocked.
Yep.
I wonder if they're just sort of, put hammer down a little bit more, like realism on my take. I wonder if they're trying to get a bunch of movies into some sort of production so that when that deadline comes, they can say, okay, well, we've got all these movies in production. Sorry, the deal was, we can only, you have to let us release these movies under this, that are on this deadline. So
right, like,
gotta do it.
Finish these films that we
yeah,
possibly, or they just get completely
fart
squashed.
them out.
They could get squashed, but they could also get released on the Disney, Disney streaming service.
Oh God! What a thought!
When those things align, Dark Phoenix 2 might not make a lot of sense to release on screen if Disney now owns them
to release.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
But on the app, the streaming service, why not? It's already made. You don't have to do a lot for it, and people might want to pay to see that. So, yeah,
that's a crazy ass thought. Though if they do make this Silver Surfer movie, I have to make it crystal clear. That would be off the chain.
Yeah, I'm not a Silver Surfer fan in any capacity, but I know he's in space and Brian K. Vaughan, and that's it.
But you're about to be.
But I'm about to be, I think. Yeah.
You don't like superhero shit, you'd probably like Silver Surfer.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's the Swamp Thing of Marvel.
Oh, my interest has been piqued.
I don't know how to react to that. I mean, on its face, hey, Brian K. Vaughan writing a Silver Surfer movie, that's crazy. But I don't really have a... I don't know. I don't have like a great feeling of excitement for that, given the climate that we're in.
Yeah.
I also, I've expressed this many times, I'm not a fan of like, let's just put out this random movie starring this character who has no connection to anything. You know, when was the last time that we got a Fantastic Four movie that anybody cared about? When was the last time Silver Surfer was on screen? I know that doesn't matter to a lot of people, but it matters to me because the context of the character matters. Like, is Galactus in it? You know, that matters to me.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions, but on his face, is it cool? Yes, it's cool. So let's move on because Marvel had a metric ton of announcements that they made this week regarding this fresh start that they're doing. And what I want to do first is I want to go through the announcements and kind of, you know, just talk a little bit about them. There are many. Some will have more to say about than others. And then this will, you know, lead us into our main topic a little later once we get through these announcements. Now, the one that I want to actually lead with is the announcement of the Amazing Spider-Man creative team of Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley. So, everybody knows that Dan Slott is leaving the book after a 10-year run.
Moment of silence for Pete, please. Thank you.
And...
Oh.
And the creative team that's going to pick up the book this July will be Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley. Ryan Ottley, famous for Invincible. So a lot of people have wanted to see him on a main Big Two book for many years and were wondering where he was going to go once Invincible ended. Now we know this is incredibly huge news.
Pun intended.
And so Nick Spencer had this to say about the book. He said that once the idea was pitched to him, he realized that he was working on the quote-unquote book of his dreams, and that he immediately had Ottley in mind. I knew that Ryan was wrapping on Invincible, and I kept thinking, God, would he be the perfect person for this? Spider-Man is such an artist book. It's contained some of the best artists in Marvel Comics history, and I really do believe that Ryan, if he wants to be, is really one of the best superhero artists working in comics. And so, he was very much on the dream list, and we're so lucky and thankful that he was interested in doing it, and we're just having so much fun so far. And you know, working with him is naturally a joy, and the pages are just so perfect. They're really going to blow people away. So, yeah, what do you guys think about this?
I think there's a lot of potential there. Obviously, Ottley is a very celebrated artist, and I think moving from Invincible to Spider-Man, like, it's a lateral move in a creative sense, because I think Invincible and Spider-Man are very comparable characters. You know what I mean? Like, there's a comparable Silver Age kind of teen aspect to those characters, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Obviously Spider-Man is a larger character, and like career-wise is a big move for Ottley, but like I think from a creative standpoint there is similarities there. So that's really exciting. I think having Ottley on Spider-Man is a really good move. And he's right. Spencer's right. Spider-Man is a character that's really lent himself to a diversity of really talented artists throughout the entire duration of the character's history. As for Spencer, this is where it gets a little more interesting. He's a high-profile writer, but he's extremely divisive and a very controversial writer. I'm really curious to see what he does here. I think as a creative team, this is a really good experiment. And I'm gonna jump on when I read.
So Nick Spencer did talk about what he wants to do and some of his plans for the series. I think that a lot of what I'll be doing is reconnecting Peter with some very classic, quintessential elements of the story that fans and readers are going to recognize. And it's exciting to bring the character back to basics, and at the same time, Dan has obviously had one of the best runs on the character ever, and we're certainly going to honor the things that he's done and build from there. The best Spider-Man, his personal trouble is mirroring his troubles in the costume, and the two stories are feeding each other, and being Spider-Man always comes with considerable cost to Peter. When you get excited to write Spider-Man, it's because you're also excited to write Jonah and Aunt May and MJ and Black Cat. We're gonna tell a really funny, human, character-driven story here, but a key part of it is also what Peter's role in the Marvel Universe is, and what the Marvel Universe looks like from his vantage point. So, I am a big Nick Spencer fan, and I know that that's a controversial opinion. I get it, but for the last, 4 years since I started reading what he does, I've been nothing short of impressed. I loved his Captain America runs, the one for Steve Rogers and the one for Sam Wilson. I loved Secret Empire. I've made no bones about that at all. I really think that he gets it. And I don't think that the controversy surrounding what he chose to do with Captain America should reflect on this, because that was a story that made sense whether you liked it or not. It was a story that made sense for that character, for what was happening in that world at that time. That world being Captain America's world. That would not make sense for Spider-Man. And I wouldn't think about this as Nick Spencer, the controversy guy, is going to come on and make Spider-Man a Nazi. Nothing like that's going to happen. It's going to be, classic Spider-Man stuff that we can all jam on. And this is a moment in comics, and I would just say, don't let your feelings about Nick Spencer as a person take away from the fact that this is something that could be really amazing.
I certainly like it more than Bendis Superman. I think there's more to chew on here. I know a lot of people really hated Dan Slott's Spider-Man run. It was very controversial in terms of its creative output. Whereas I didn't have that feeling with Superman. Didn't have a writer the last 10 years. A singular writer, So this is like a real breath of fresh air creatively. It's kind of like when Scott Snyder took over for Grant Morrison on Batman, who was on that book for like 6-7 years. I think this is an opportunity, and I'm really intrigued by it because I haven't really cared about Spider-Man in a long time.
I am less interested, and I'll admit to buying into the Twitter controversy about Secret Empire and Captain America for a hot second. And then when I really dug into why I felt the way I did, I realized I have no basis for it. But his Ant-Man run, specifically Second Chance Man, I didn't like. I didn't feel like he had a good grasp of I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say that he doesn't have a good grasp about the character, because the character was Ant-Man, and who has a good grasp of Ant-Man but Paul Rudd. But it just didn't feel right. It didn't work right for me. I didn't like it very much. So I'm less interested. But like Phil said, like this is a breath of fresh air. This is a whole new creator and creative team. In 10, the first one in 10 years, like this. Yeah, you would be a fool to pass this up.
Will you buy
or at least give it a shot? Well, no. But I will beat Marco up and steal his copy and So
I'm
give it a
not,
shot that way.
I'm not buying it. I have no connection to this writer
I
or
fucking
artist.
told you.
You really wouldn't buy this, Marco?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not genuinely interested in Spider-Man to that capacity. Or I'm not attached to Nick Spencer's writing in any way. And Ryan Otley, I only know tangentially because of Pete. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'll have to think about it, but it's not piquing my interest.
And Phil, you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Kev.
I just to kind of tag on to that, for me, Otley, like, he is an obvious choice. I kind of feel like it's really dumb that they haven't done that before. He's not enough to pull me in. I don't know what his contract or his abilities were for Invincible, but that reminds me of a question I had while you were reading that. How often does the Amazing Spider-Man come out?
Currently,
is it monthly?
It's bi-weekly.
Whoa.
I'm really curious to see how Otley's going to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough schedule.
I'll see if there's some word about it in the announcement, but I don't see any way that he does that.
No.
Right? Yeah.
That's rough.
And yeah, I don't know. I know bi-weekly is a tough schedule. I don't know. I believe Invincible came out monthly.
Yeah.
And it had problems coming out.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
And I think, Sean, we had mentioned like in a couple episodes ago, but that the schedule like has to be abided to for that, for such a flagship title. So like that's kind of unnerving.
Yeah, there's no word in this article regarding the shipping schedule, but I would look for this to be a monthly title. I just don't see them doing it bi-weekly and him staying on the book for more than an arc. So
that's another one similar to our discussion about Ed McGuinness that I think, makes sense and it would totally work and the hype is real, but if it's a bi-weekly book, like you said, I think it's an announcement for hype.
Yeah, that said, though, I think that they would want to keep Ryan Otley around. So they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna do things that would steer him away, like having it be bi-weekly. So I would look for him to be on this for a good amount of time. Will he be there a long time? Probably not, because he just did Invincible, and that was like 10 years or whatever the hell. So but we'll see. So moving along. And these we don't have to spend a lot of time on. Just, say your piece and we'll move on. Cosmic Ghost Rider is coming this summer.
That looks cool.
It looks interesting. It's going to be a limited series written by Donny Cates. We don't know about an artist, but this is a Frank Castle from an alternative future who became the Cosmic Ghost Rider. And they're going to show his sort of origin in Thanos number 16 that actually dropped this week. So you can check that out if you care.
Wait,
Sorry?
Frank Castle's the Ghost Rider?
Yeah.
What? In an alternate future.
Yeah.
Alternate reality
okay.
future, yeah.
Okay.
So any interest in this?
On its face, it seems cool. It's something I would, check out and trade probably. I don't think it doesn't strike me as the kind of thing I would be interested off the stands, but in trade, I would totally check it out.
This is the kind of thing I actively avoid, actually.
Really?
I don't really like gimmicks like that. I don't like when a character becomes another character in that way. Like, I don't like
okay.
When Bucky became Captain America.
Nah, that's a little different because it makes more sense. I don't like Spider-Man becoming cosmically powered, or
Captain Universe.
Right, or Frank Castle becoming cosmically powered, or any weird, or Wolverine and the Hulk somehow having a fusion. All that turns me.
Oh yeah, that was weird for me too, eh?
Oh god. Marvel also announced the Immortal Hulk.
This is the one I'm interested in.
Yes. So Bruce Banner is back from the dead. If that's a spoiler for you, I'm sorry.
Bruce Banner was dead?
Dead-ish, something like that.
Just kidding.
So this is going to be written by Al Ewing, and the art will be done by Joe Bennett, with covers by Alex Ross, which I always love. And it's going to launch this June. The only concern I have is that I don't really like Al Ewing.
Yep, I knew that was coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do. So
what has he written?
I'm interested.
Ultimates, New Avengers. His New Avengers run, I used to review that, and it was hard to do because that book was so bad. No offense, but yeah, I couldn't get through that book. It was hard. But yeah, so you're a fan, so what are you looking forward to with this book?
So this book is it's going to be a horror take on the Hulk, which is an angle that seems like it would be sort of obvious to take, but I don't believe it's been done. So I'm excited to look at that aspect, and hopefully they go balls to the wall horror. I mean, I can imagine Marvel will, but I hope they do.
Yeah, that could be very cool. I think that you're right. That's a great concept. Maybe it's been done somewhere before, but I haven't read it. So yeah, sure. Just to pick up a number one, I will definitely get this.
Yeah.
So next up, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp that's coming out just in time to coincide with the movie.
What a strange coincidence.
I know. Wow. It's coming out this June, and Mark Waid and Javier Garrón are going to be the creative team on this one. I think this could be interesting. Mark Waid, I like Mark Waid.
I hear he's been kind of bad lately.
A lot of people feel that way.
I've had a lot of trouble with Mark Waid lately.
But it could be good because Mark Waid is traditionally a very good writer.
Yeah,
so,
that said, I haven't read the main titles he's been reading. So writing. So I was reading The Champions, which is sort of a C level book. I would call it. So he could just be farting that one out and focusing all his strength on Black Widow and Captain America.
Captain America is good. I'm not over the moon, and quite frankly, I stopped picking it up 1 issue ago. I don't know. I just decided I didn't want to read it anymore. It's good, but I don't know. I didn't want to read it, so that's weird. But I read an interview, and he seems pretty excited to be working on this title. He said he's always wanted to have an extended run on Ant-Man, so this is a shot. So we'll see. Marvel also announced a Multiple Man series.
That's cool.
Yeah, this one also sounds fucking good.
From Matthew Rosenberg and Andy McDonald. That's really interesting. Because
Go on.
He's dead. Jamie Madrox is dead, so I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
Well, it's like when they were talking about doing the James Franco film for Multiple Man. It was it's a cool concept. I don't know. Yeah,
my one concern with this book in particular is something that we've talked about in the past, which is just how do you sell this? Is this bankable? All the other books we've talked about so far, I would say they probably do well. This is the first one where it's kind of like, all right, does Multiple Man have the appeal to carry an ongoing series?
I wonder if
I do want
it's
to
not
make I do want to make one amendment. It's a mini series, not an ongoing series. So that actually
Even better.
changes my perspective.
I wonder if it's Matthew Rosenberg's name that's carrying this more than the Multiple Man title.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't know how his work at Marvel has gone, but he's a creator of the Black Mask title, We Can Never Go Home. I think he's got a couple other indie
For kids.
indie-esque titles
For
for kids,
kids.
that are gold. So I think putting him on a smaller scale sort of mini series is a great move.
He's done some things at Marvel that have been really good. Phoenix Resurrection was not one of those, but Kingpin was good. The Red Room was good. So he's got some stuff under his belt that's been very good at Marvel. We'll see how this plays out. From what I read, the reason that this got greenlit was because of his pitch. His pitch was so good that they decided to make it a real thing.
That sounds really promising.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you blow them away with a pitch and they're like, all right, fuck it, we'll fund it. That's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, we also learned that as a part of the fresh start, Thor, Odin's son, will return as Thor, and will, become the main man again. And Jane Foster, I assume this means that the death of Thor arc that's currently ongoing will result in her death.
She had cancer, right?
Yeah, Jane Foster does have cancer.
So,
It looks like that's what's going to happen. Jason Aaron is going to continue to write Thor.
good dude.
He's been on it for quite some time now. And the art will be by Mike Del Mundo. So I read Thor. I've been reading Thor since Jason Aaron jumped on. I'm gonna continue to read Thor. This is par for the course. Cool. Doctor Strange is going into space as a part of Marvel's fresh start.
Just put everything in space.
That's
Mark
not a bad
Waid,
move.
I think it is.
You're gonna be real surprised when you find out who's going to space next.
Wait, is it Marco?
It is Marco.
Oh,
Haha, it's Marco.
Mark Waid and Jesus Saez are going to be on this one.
oh,
Really talented. I like the creative team. I don't like it when characters go to weird places that don't make sense for them. Doctor Strange in space doesn't speak to me. So,
again with Mark Waid on this title, I don't know.
I don't know. The space concept I think is okay. In one of the earlier runs back in like 2015, it was some weird magic stuff, and then there was like a space alien race that kind of he combated with. It was good stuff. I don't remember who was on it, but I don't know. I just from seeing him in that sort of scenario and in that setting, it worked for me. And I think with this creative team and in a very similar scenario, I think it'll work.
yeah. So you're referring to the Jason Aaron Chris McConnell run from 2015. Yes, it was really, really good. Jason Aaron, though, for me, does well in situations where he can explore his quirky side as a writer. I'm not so sure that Mark Waid will be able to pull that off in that way.
That's fair.
It's I would even say the space stuff isn't the problem. I think it's the Doctor Strange mystical magic-y side that's gonna really suffer under Mark Waid.
Damn, we're just dumping on Mark Waid today, huh?
Be better, man. Come on.
His Archie stuff's
get your
good.
shit together.
So another announcement is a mini-series called The Life of Captain Marvel. And so this is a reimagining of her origin story by Margaret Stahl and Carlos Pacheco. and it's going to be out July 4th. So they're getting this out ahead of the movie to try to, pretty up her origin story, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Hope it's good. Yeah.
I'll probably... I want to say I'll buy it, but I haven't been reading Captain Marvel for quite some time, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, though. Nice 5-issue retelling of an origin story. I could do it. The last announcement, and the biggest one by far, is that Ta-Nehisi Coates is going to be writing Captain America.
That's cool.
This is something that has been asked for. This is something that I personally brought up on the show many episodes ago, saying, how come we can't get that?
I think you literally brought this up like a week ago.
I brought it up several times because to me, it makes all the sense in the world, and it's the clearest example of take your top writer, your top minority writer, and put him on your biggest, well, I guess Captain America's not their biggest character, but like one of your biggest characters, and see what happens. And we're going to get that opportunity. So Coates is a regular contributor to theatlantic.com, and he debuted the information there and wrote an article about him taking on the title. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to, read through it all. But it basically goes into how there is a lot of logic behind this marriage, and what his mentality is going to be going into writing this, and how there's a lot to explore here. He says, in fact, this is a quote, "I'm not convinced I can tell a great Captain America story, which is precisely why I want so badly to try." I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool that he wants a shot at this book, the same shot that anyone else would have. And he also talks about how Captain America is not a character who upholds the, who rigorously defends America no matter what, right? How he's frequently, he has the nomad persona. He frequently is against whatever the American movement is at the time, and how that resonates with Coates. So I think that's really interesting. And then the art's going to be by Lanil Yu. So, what do you guys think about this?
It's cool. I'm happy it's happening.
Yeah, I think this is a really important time for it too, which I'm sure he brings up in the article. I didn't read it, but
yeah,
I think to get a voice that's not, a straight white man on Captain America, especially right now, to give a view of America that's not the straight white man's view, will be really poignant for that character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge news, and it's really exciting, and it's refreshing, and I don't know, like it also, like, building up on the hype of just coming off of Black Panther too. It's just like, it just feels really awesome. And this, I'm afraid it's gonna unfortunately be lambasted by some fans of the character, but ultimately, he does good work. He has Black Panther under his belt, and like we reviewed that. You guys can go check out that book club, and I'm excited for him to see, like, this is going to be his sophomore crack at a book, and this is going to be, I feel he's going to really show his stuff in this. So I'm really excited. I'm going to pick this up.
Oh
yeah, like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's not sort of stumbling through like he kind of was in the first few issues of Black Panther. Like, he knows what he's doing now.
Right.
Guys, Mark was picking up a superhero book.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
I can't think of a single reason not to buy this, honestly. It's monumental. It's exciting. It's a great creative team. It's obviously a great character. You would literally have to not be a fan of comics to not have some level of interest in this, I think. But beyond that, I am prepared to not like this book. How about that?
What?
That's how I go on with Marvel movies. You lower your hype.
Okay. Marvel movies aside, I am lowering my hype, but I also want to tag that with the fact that I'm okay with the fact that I may not like it. Because for me, it's not about the run being classic. It's about the chance. It's about the opportunity, you know? And a minority creator can fail just as easily as anyone else. And that's fine. Because, you know, I dropped Mark Waid's Captain America. That doesn't mean that all white creators suck at writing Captain America. It just means that he didn't do the best job for me, you know? So if Coates' run isn't the best, that's cool, because now the door is open for other minority creators to have similar opportunities. And maybe one day we get a Hispanic writer on Spider-Man, you know, or a woman on Spider-Man, or whatever the hell, you know, like the floodgates can open up and we can see more diverse takes on these characters that typically have been in a stranglehold by a certain group of people. So I'm hopeful that this means that more than I'm hopeful that the run itself is good, I guess.
That said, to that point, I hope it is good so that does happen. You know, that if it goes the other way, there's a very good chance that the floodgates will remain closed.
You're not wrong. Unfortunately, you are not wrong. So, all of that information now out there, that's going to lead us into our main topic, which basically I just want to talk to you guys about whether or not what we know so far about the Fresh Start represents what Marvel needs to bring people back into the fold. Is this the start of what's going to redeem Marvel in the eyes of the fan base? Or is this just more of the same stuff that we're used to? And I'm asking that from the perspective of the announcements, you know, so the creative teams, the new books, and Marvel's stance lately, and the kind of the language they've been using and things like that.
So, I mean, as somebody who's very removed from what Marvel's doing, I sort of see this as very little change. From they just like looking out at it and not actively being engaged in the Marvel universe. I see it as just sort of, again, it's the same thing. They announced a couple miniseries, some creative shifts with some high profile people, but I mean, other than that, that's all it really is to me, is just creative shifts and announcements of books. But that's because I also don't know the implications within the Marvel Universe. I don't know what this necessarily means for certain characters. So as somebody who doesn't keep up with this stuff, it's nothing that's going to bring me into Marvel, but it's also not anything that's pushing me out. If anything, it just means, all right, I can keep a closer eye on this. This stuff looks sort of interesting. But whether or not this isn't for me, but there are bits in here that, you know, like I was like, okay, like cool. But again, it's just general Marvel stuff.
I think I can agree with Marco as someone who does pick up the trades and isn't in the grind of the weekly release. It is all stuff that on the surface I'm interested in, but it still does feel, like Marco said, just very Marvel. Nothing here really stands out from what it feels like they've done before, other than, I guess, the Ta-Nehisi Coates and Captain America announcement. it and I think you guys said this week, I could be wrong, I may have heard this somewhere else, and if so, I apologize, but it does feel just like, CB Cebulski's in charge now he's got to put his flag on the field and make, try and right the ship his way.
Right, I said that last week,
yeah.
So at the heart of it, DC Rebirth was a shuffling of titles and a shuffling of talent. But the narrative that came from DC Rebirth was meat and potatoes comics back to like what people like, right? Which honestly, I don't think there was a substantial difference between the DCU or the DC Rebirth. I think it really was just marketing. And in the case here, I don't see this as I don't see the marketing behind it to make people think like, oh, this is the Marvel you like. Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think to Cale's point, it is new editorial making their impression on the imprint. So I don't think this is going to have DC Rebirth implications for the Marvel publishing line.
Yeah, there was very little, like we brought up the creative refresh last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, and to your point, Phil, there's no narrative to it. There's no story there that they're putting forward, and that all makes it feel sort of just flat. And when we did have that transition from DCU to Rebirth, it was this whole like. It was an event in and of itself, but because of the way that they positioned these shifts and these changes, the way Marvel's announcing these shifts and these changes is just sort of, they're happening. And what does that mean? It means the books you're getting are XYZ and the talent you're getting is XYZ. But like for Rebirth, it was the implications are you're getting the talent here, but then this is happening in a larger capacity. Holistically, the universe is changing, whereas for Marvel, sure, holistically the universe is changing, but it's not really.
And I sort of think that's the way Marvel goes, and that's fine. I think here the announcement of the books and the creative team is the appeal. Like that's what they should be leading with. But all this fresh start, relaunch, legacy numbering, they shouldn't have come out a week earlier with that. Yeah, it was something to get eyes on them for the next week. That just I don't know, for me, I guess, and for what it seemed like for you guys when I listened last week, it just sort of soured what they announced this week. Like I'm not less excited because of it, but like when I saw the announcement, for a start, I went, ugh, again?
Yeah, that's fair. It's totally fair.
So I can't really dispute anything that you guys said. And I'm also not the target audience for the question. I am still actively reading Marvel, and that's not changing based on this. So, this grabs me, but of course it grabs me because I'm into it already.
Right.
And I was really curious what you guys thought as people who aren't reading Marvel comics. And it's really unfortunate that it doesn't really do anything for you. I guess that makes my next question for you guys. What do they have to do? What's it going to take?
For me, it's like I said, it's the creative teams. Give me a creative team, a cool concept. Like Matthew Rosenberg on Multiple Man. I think that's that enough for me is interesting.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar for me. I just read books that have creative teams that I'm drawn to. It's the same thing with DC.
Yeah.
Obviously my favorite character is Superman, but Peter Tomasi didn't or Dan Jurgensen draw me in to read it. And this is right when people were flocking to Rebirth, right? But I really liked Pac's run during the New 52 and DCU, and that was more controversial. You know, it's just it's contingent on who's working on it. As we mentioned earlier, Spencer and Otley are working on Spider-Man. That's interesting. I'm going to read that. It doesn't mean I'm intrigued line wide to read all these Marvel books, but that's never been my MO to begin with. I've never been the person that's like, well, I need to. I was at the comic book store last week, and DC printed a DC Rebirth Omnibus, which is every number one from Rebirth, and my friend was really interested in that, and I was like, why? You know, half of these are probably bad. But I didn't. Obviously, if he was going to buy it, I would have been like, fine, go buy it. I don't care. But I don't care about narratives coming from online. The New 52 had a terrible backlash from the fans, and I liked a lot of the New 52. It's like I said, it always comes down to the creative teams and feedback, I guess, too.
So you're telling me that there's nothing that Marvel is producing currently that interests you?
No, I never said that at all. It's just I acknowledge that Marvel has bad PR right now, which is totally true. But I mean, Moon Knight just came out by Lemire, and I thought that was really good. You know what I mean?
That is, yeah.
It's always just contingent on who's on what.
So you're actively picking up Marvel books then?
Not recently, I guess, but Marvel's lost a lot of writers recently.
That's true. You
know what I mean?
I mean, I think Phil's in a similar situation to me. Like, he just sort of picks up whatever interests him, and when he can afford it. Like, you know, he's not in the weekly grind like you are, Sean.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
And I mean, like, to me, what you're asking is what would it take for you to get into the weekly grind? Well, I mean, 125 price point, you know, like it was in the 90s. Like,
no, I'm not really asking you that specifically. It's just that, like
the idea,
right? Like, you would say you're a fan of DC Comics, right? You would say that you're an active fan of what they do, even if you're not buying everything they put out. There are titles that you're looking for, and there's stuff that you're, you know, invested in. But the same is not the case for Marvel. And so, unless I'm putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, I am an active. I mean, if that's your definition of active fan, then I'm an active fan of Marvel.
Okay, so what books are you actively invested in for Marvel?
I mean, like, you know, for me, like I said, it's a case by case basis. I am interested in Iceman. I am interested in there's something else. Hawkeye, Vision. Yeah, but now I'm just naming books. But like you know, I don't go out of my way to get everything, but like if there's a creator like Hickman on Fantastic Four,
yeah,
or,
exactly,
the Avengers, like if he's got a big Marvel run, I'll make it a goal to try and pick up everything so I have that cohesive narrative.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comparable in that regard, but like looking at Marvel's current list of publications, like it's not. I look at it and I think like, ooh, this is not a great list overall. But you know, I hope Marvel can bring in some of these writers they've lost the last few years to kind of change that, and that's not going to happen overnight.
I'm not convinced it's going to happen at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think that Rick Remender has any interest in working for either Marvel or DC ever again. I don't know that Jonathan Hickman is going back to Marvel. I think he's going to DC. Matt Fraction is like on the fringe of, you know, working in you know, the big two.
Right.
In fact, I think he's outright done.
Yeah, I would even say he's even probably on the fringe of comics right now.
Yeah.
Like other than Sex Criminals and maybe Casanova.
Brian K. Vaughan is done. Ed Brubaker is done. And, those guys are not. Oh, wait, did I say something wrong? Cale?
No, I got a weird. Sorry. I guess my mom tried to call me and it tried to bring it up.
You want to have her on the show?
Let's do it.
I don't know. And now the whole thing is weird.
No, it's not weird. No. Now it's
You're
happening.
fine.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, but I don't think that those writers are coming back. Ed Brubaker makes tons of money, I'm sure, and he gets to tell the stories that he's really passionate about telling with no editorial oversight at all. Brian K. Vaughan can do whatever he wants. Look at Saga. That book is crazy. And Marvel had all of those writers. And they're all gone. They're not coming back. And Marvel has tried to build up new names, but it's hard to do that when you consider that a lot of the ways that those other guys came up was through creator-owned books.
Yeah, definitely.
So, go ahead.
No, keep going. Sorry.
I was just going to say, all the guys that I named had books that were successful already. And that was why, when they started writing for Marvel, it mattered. Now, a lot of the guys who come up, it's like, I don't really know who you are. And it just feels more like they don't have that big book under their belt to say, hey, I did this. Go ahead, Cale.
I don't know. I mean, Donny Cates did God Country. Kelly Thompson had Gem and the Holograms.
What about Jerry Duggan?
He's been around Marvel for a while now.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
He's flown under the radar for most of that period in terms of the fact that, he's had runs. He's been writing for them, but nothing has really, stood out and grabbed people.
No.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I've read a little bit of what he's written, and nothing's ever really grabbed me.
Yeah, and I feel like they have several writers like that. The books are serviceable, they're fine, they're not offensive, but they're not.
Cullen Bunn.
He's another one. He has a lot of fans. I think he's fine.
I think he's just serviceable.
He's up on Cullen Bunn. All right, guys, he's up on him.
I didn't say anything mean. It's just he's serviceable.
He's better than serviceable. No, but for something like that, totally to your point, Sean. These people are better served in a freer space, more creator-owned space, and largely that's where they're coming up. Matthew Rosenberg is a perfect example of that. He's blowing up at Marvel, but that's based off the success at Black Mask, some of his even smaller stuff than that. They're definitely not coming back, and a lot of the creators who leave Marvel are very vocal about it. I'm not sure to what extent, Rick Remender, but Margie Liu, I've brought this up in the past. She's, as much as she can, dedicated to never working for the big two again. That's it. She's not interested in it, and she won't be for a long time. Well, and I can see where she's coming from there, but in the case of, well, no, I can't even say that. No, but as a creator.
Yeah. I don't know her story, but just looking at it from a creative perspective, once you make your name at Marvel and DC, the way the trend is going is you go off and strike out on your own stuff.
Yeah.
So Marvel and you have to cut your teeth on your own indie book, and then cut your teeth on a Marvel and DC, career path for however long, and then finally, what you put out will probably sell.
Yeah.
To Sean's point, I wonder if the new editorial at Marvel will help cultivate a new crop of good writers over at Marvel, which I know they've been looking for too to begin with. Like they've been really seeking out a lot of non-comic writers and stuff. There's definitely like a talent search. So I don't know. Like I mean, like I said, if there's no writer that grabs me, word of mouth is important too. Because I didn't know who Jeff Lemire was when I started. Not this year, but in like a couple years ago when I started reading. Boy, what was it?
Sweet Tooth?
No, it was Arrow, Green Arrow.
Oh,
Yeah,
because I didn't know who he was at the time, and word of mouth was good, and I went in. It was like the best Green Arrow run I've read in a long time. So, like word of mouth is important too, obviously.
Well, I think Marvel, based on this conversation, I really want to hear what other people have to say. Like, I really want to hear from you guys out there, what your thoughts are, and if you are a lapsed Marvel fan.
Wait, Sean.
Sorry?
I didn't get to say my piece.
I wasn't actually wrapping us. I just really wanted to say that right now.
My fault. Oh, okay. I was like,
It did seem like a rap in Marco's defense.
yeah, sorry.
I can understand why. I really wanted to put that out there because I was going to say that I want to know what is keeping people from jumping on board, and what are some of the other ideas that people have as far as like why they don't read Marvel comics and what it's going to take. But go ahead, Marco.
So for me, it's largely like diversification, and being willing to take like certain creative risks, with characters and stuff. Like I'll follow a writer or an artist, and again, I'm superhero stuff, like not if they enter the big two necessarily, maybe a writer here and there, maybe an artist here and there, but the space that they need to be in needs to be separate from those larger entities. So for me, I'm all on board for like the Neil Gaiman stuff, the Burger books, the oh my god, Young Animal, Vertigo, like Bendis' stuff. Like all this is catering to somebody like me who is lapsed from superhero comics, which is starting to become a growing segment within the comics world, and the right path, in my opinion, is to cater to those people, because then that'll lead them to the larger DC world. Like for me, Young Animal got me interested in just all of their stuff in general. I can go back to read the rest of the Shade, the rest of the Doom Patrol, but then that also gets me on board and keeps me up to date with what's going on with DC, and that's what hooked me on with like the Rebirth stuff. Like I picked up a couple of the Rebirth books. I picked up a couple of Doomsday Clock, for example, like something like that. Like all these things are made to cater to people who have left that space entirely, and there's a need for that kind of creative risk from Marvel, I think, in order to cultivate those people who they are losing and knowing that they're looking for talent. Like they need to give the creators priority over what the Marvel agenda is, and which is what I feel DC has been doing pretty well.
And I feel, I was just going to say, I feel like they sort of had that with titles like Hellcat, like Patsy Walker Hellcat.
Yeah, I was interested in that. Yeah.
But yeah, like after, I think unfortunately the sales, tank that, right? Like the book can't stay in the stands if it doesn't sell.
But then there has to be that adjustment of what is successful. And what do you...
And I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
That gets into so many, other issues that go on. For me, there nothing will beat that period of 2006 to like 20 something, or 2011-ish, 2012-ish, something along those lines, where it just felt like they were firing on all cylinders, and the creators had all these big ideas, and everything was being everything that they were putting out, it felt like they were churning out great books all the time. And not just like good books, not just average books, really, really great books. And I'm not saying that there aren't great books on the stands right now. I read their books all the time, and I continue to say that I love a lot of what they put out. But also, a lot of it just feels serviceable, and that's probably a big part of the problem. But any other thoughts on this? All right, so that's going to do it for that topic. I really, like I said, do want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I think, look, ultimately, I feel like Marvel and DC have to exist, and I feel like the comics industry is better when they're doing great, and I want to see them both do great. And right now, DC is doing fantastic. Marvel's lagging behind. If DC were struggling, we'd be having the opposite conversation. Yeah. So yeah, let's continue to talk about it. And you can get to us on iTunes. You can get to us on SoundCloud. You can leave us a rating while you're there. You can write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. We are on social media at The Comics Pals all over the place. And last but not least, we are on YouTube, where you can like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. Do want to highlight the fact that the Video Game Pals releases the day after this does. Of course, Pete was not here today, but and he actually won't be on the Video Game Pals either. That's right. I'll be the host.
Yikes.
Oh, Andy hosting.
So Andy's not on it either. So I am.
So Peggy's probably hosting.
I am hosting.
Got to be Thompson.
Oh, so Thompson, yeah.
Me.
Yeah. Got to be Thompson.
Tune into the Video
Thompson
Game Pals. Special
Thompson's
guest
gonna be
host
hosting.
Phil will be on.
Tyler. Oh.
I think that I have proven that I can host a show. So I'll be doing it again over there. What are we going to talk about? I have no clue. So tune in and find out.
Nice. All right.
Well, no.
I guess you can host a
Pete,
show.
I'm in.
So let's do some plugs, Cale.
So I'll post. I'll do Pete's plugs first. You can follow him at loud_Pete on Twitter and Instagram. He is writing. I think he's writing full time for CBR
news
now.
Over there.
He's on the news desk.
News.
Yeah. So if you see a CBR article pop up that looks kind of newsy, go ahead and give it a click, and help him pay the rent, because the Comics Pals are poor and somebody's got to fund it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TotoInto. That's TOTOINTOW. And I have a very special request and plug this week. If you have been paying attention at all, you know that a historic snowstorm has hit England this weekend. And like, they are going crazy. They have no idea how to handle snow. But there was supposed to be a Comic-Con in a small town in Scotland called Dunfermline, and it's a really nice independent. I guess I would equate it to kind of like a FlameCon, independent comics focused Comic-Con, run by a store called what is it? It's the Little House of Heroes, I think.
That's cute.
Little Shop of Heroes. And they had to cancel the Comic-Con because the snow is just so bad. So this put the owners and the creators of this Comic-Con in a really hard financial place. So if you can, please go to GoFundMe. We'll post a link in the description for Dunfermline's Comic-Con. They're asking for just a little bit of a donation to help the shop stay out of financial ruin because of this storm. They put everything into this Comic-Con, and it's by all accounts wonderful. So please, if you could do that, just scroll down a little bit and help save Dunfermline's Comic-Con.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely support that. Marco?
You can find me at Mr. Marco Animoto on Instagram and Twitter. Just a quick shout out. I got just one plug for BJ Mendelsohn. He's a writer who recently sort of just reached out and for us to kind of give a little feedback on his book. He has a couple comics out, Jobbers and a national story of minor significance, as well as some new releases. So go check it out. It's cool stuff. I had some fun reading it. They're pretty quick reads. He has the first couple issues free, and then one of his other stories you have to pay for. But yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So go check it out.
Awesome. Phil?
That's me. I'm Phil. So Andy and I from the Video Game Pals, we did a Oscar review, which will have passed by the time this comes out, but we more or less discussed the best movies of 2017, so you should check that out. It turned out pretty good. And also in April, we are going to be doing another book club episode for All-Star Superman to commemorate Action Comics 1000 and the transition to Brian Michael Bendis' run. So be on the lookout for that. And also, since we didn't mention it, we actually just did a book club episode on Space Riders, which just dropped this past week.
Yes.
So check that out as well. Yeah.
The best host.
Oh, and unfortunately, Marco hosted the Space Riders episode. No, that's
Hostess Mostess.
That episode was a lot of fun. I think if you check it out, you'll have fun, even if you didn't read Space Riders. And then you can follow me on social media at Cyborg Bebop.
Awesome. As for me, you can follow me on Twitter only at Sean Soapbox, where I would love to talk to you about what Marvel's publishing right now and why you don't like it, or why you do like it, or why you're not reading it. And let's talk about DC too. Why not?
Smell you later.